The third, Hebrews 8 again. There are three things mentioned in Hebrews 8. One is that God will not remember our past anymore. First blessing of the new covenant, verse 12. Second, that we can know God as a Father. And the Holy Spirit is the one who comes to make God as a Father known to us, verse 11. And the third is, verse 10. This is the best part of it. Not the best, I mean all three are good. Another part of it. Middle of verse 10, I'll put my law into their mind and I'll write them in their heart. Mind is up here, heart is here. The mind is what gives us instruction. The heart is what gives us ability. The mind gives us knowledge of what is God's will. The heart gives us the strength to do God's will. That's why the Holy Spirit doesn't fill my mind, He fills my heart. Because the Holy Spirit comes not to give us instruction, but to give us power. And then we will understand also. So what the Lord is saying is, here's the third blessing of the new covenant. In the old covenant, there's no such promise. The old covenant is, thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do this. You know the 10 commandments. And there were 613 commandments in Exodus to Deuteronomy. And it was only, you shall do this and you shall not do this. And Lord, how shall we do it? No answer. Until Jesus came. And He said, John the Baptist said, when He comes, He will immerse you in the Holy Spirit and fire. Then you'll have the desire and ability to do God's will. So here, when He says, I'll put my law into your mind, it means He'll give you the desire to do God's will, the knowledge of God's will and the desire to do it. But that's not enough. He'll come in our heart, which means He'll give us the ability. So there are two things we need. The desire to do God's will and the ability to do God's will. Knowledge of God's will and desire. And God says He'll give us both through the Holy Spirit. The same thing is written in Philippians in chapter 2. Philippians 2, it says in verse 13. Philippians 2:13. God works inside you. Whenever the Bible's New Testament says God works inside you, it's referring to the Holy Spirit. When it says God is working outside you, making all things work together for your good, that is His sovereign power as a loving Father working everything for your good. But whenever you read God working inside you, like it says in verse 13, that's the Holy Spirit. And what is God working inside me? First of all, to will His good pleasure. That means He produces a tremendous, passionate desire to do the will of God. And gives me an understanding of the will of God. And secondly, it says He'll give me to work His good pleasure means He gives me the ability. So this is exactly what we read in Hebrews chapter 8. I will write my law in your mind, which is, I will give you a desire and instruct you about my will. Then I will write it in your heart, which means I'll give you the strength and the ability to do God's will. Now, who's the one who's going to ask for it? I'll tell you. The one who has a passionate desire to do the will of God on earth, just like Jesus did. I'll tell you something you'll discover when you go to heaven, when Christ comes back, that the people who lived the most useful life on earth were not the great scientists and the great explorers and the people who made a lot of money and all that. No, it's those who had a passionate desire to do everything that God planned with their lives when He sent them to this earth, when they were born on earth. And I hope you have such a desire. I remember reading in Psalm 139 once that, I don't have time to go there now. God planned every day of your life before you were born. Amazing. While you were in your mother's womb, He planned every day of your life before even the first day was there. So I've thought about that often. I say, Lord, I don't know how long I'm going to live on this earth. That's in God's hands. But I know it was written down in eternity. It's already in the book. And when I got converted in 1959, 64 years ago, I did not know what God's plan for my life was. I knew that Christ had come in. I was forgiven. But as time went on, God began to show me what His will was. And I want to tell you, for every one of you, if you've received Christ into your heart, please listen to me. There's a plan God made for you before you were born. Some of you were born in non-Christian families. God determined that one day you would hear the gospel and become a Christian. That wasn't accidental. He planned it. And from that day, He planned everything in your life. Now, you may not have fulfilled that plan. You may have been careless about it. Well, wake up today. It's never too late. Say, Lord, I wasted many years, but I want to start living for eternity. That gripped my heart as a very young man, that I want to live with eternity in view all the time. I want to live in such a way that when Christ comes back and I stand before Him, I'm not going to tell Him how much money I earned or not even how many countries I've traveled or how many places I preached the gospel, but only one thing. Lord, did I finish the plan You wrote in Your book for me before I was born?